Imagine this, the hip-hop world frozen in shock, timelines flooded, and fans scrambling to piece together the truth. Universal Music Group, the very empire that helped shape Drake's career, is now rumored to be pulling back the curtain on secrets he never wanted the world to know. And it's not just the usual industry drama. No, this time whispers are darker, more personal, and dangerously tied to the very lyrics Drake once bragged about in his own diss tracks. What if the man who's built a legacy off slick rhymes and polished charm accidentally exposed himself through his music? What if those lines weren't clever wordplay at all, but subtle confessions hidden in plain sight? Sources close to the situation claim UMG executives are gearing up for a shocking expose, one that could forever change the way fans view the so-called Sixth God. And the irony? Drake's own pen might have written his downfall. Friends, enemies, and even collaborators are said to be in disbelief, and insiders reveal the OVO camp is scrambling to do damage control before the truth hits mainstream headlines. Could this be the scandal that finally ends Drake's run, or just another chapter in hip-hop's wildest saga? Stay tuned. The story begins with an atmosphere of disbelief. People close to the industry have whispered for years that Drake's public image and private life are not exactly aligned. But nobody expected the powerhouse label that practically gave him the crown to be the one preparing to strip him down. Behind closed doors, meetings have allegedly taken place with executives, legal teams, and even outside investigators. What's being said in those rooms is enough to send chills down the spines of even his most loyal supporters. According to insiders, the tension really started when Drake himself pushed too far in his ongoing feuds. The diss tracks he dropped, aimed at rivals, were supposed to humiliate others, but instead, people began replaying them and catching things they had overlooked. Lines that once sounded like clever metaphors suddenly carried a sinister undertone. Fans began stitching together his own words like puzzle pieces, and the picture they painted wasn't flattering at all. One former collaborator, who spoke only under anonymity, described it like this: "We were all in the studio laughing at how brutal his bars were. But later, when people started replaying them, I swear it felt like he was admitting to something right in front of us. We just didn't want to believe it at the time." The so-called admissions didn't stop at lyrics either. There were screenshots, alleged DMS, and text exchanges floating around. Some of them were dismissed as Photoshop fakes, but others seemed too specific, too raw to ignore. Fans on social media turned into detectives, cross-referencing his lyrics, with rumored timelines, and what they found sparked more questions than answers. Meanwhile, inside the OVO camp, emotions ran high. Friends of Drake were torn between defending him publicly and confronting him privately. One longtime friend was overheard telling him, "You gotta clear this up before it's too late, before they spin this into something you can't recover from." But Drake, confident and stubborn, allegedly brushed it off with a smirk, saying, "They've been trying to cancel me for years, and I'm still here." His words might have been bold, but the unease in the room lingered. The situation only grew worse when UMG execs supposedly got their hands on unreleased material, songs, and verses that never made it to streaming platforms. Insiders claim these tracks contain lines that were never meant to see the light of day, and they painted an even darker image than what fans had already pieced together. The question now hanging in the air was clear: was this just reckless artistry, or had Drake actually been hiding in plain sight all along? As the rumors swirled, other artists in the industry began to react. Some who had once looked up to Drake started distancing themselves. A young rising rapper went live on Instagram saying, "You think you know someone, you idolize them, and then you find out they've been playing a whole different game behind the scenes." Fans flooded the comments, demanding answers, while others accused the rapper of clout chasing. The hip-hop world was suddenly divided. With everyone forced to pick a side, Drake's family wasn't spared from the fallout either. Sources close to them revealed that arguments broke out at private gatherings, with some relatives begging him to address the allegations and others urging him to stay quiet and let it blow over. His mother, always his biggest supporter, was said to be devastated, asking repeatedly, "Why are they saying these things about my son?" While his father, known for speaking out in interviews, allegedly told him, "The truth always comes out, no matter how hard you try to run from it." Those words reportedly left Drake silent, staring at the floor, unable to respond. And then came the fans. Social media erupted into chaos with hashtags trending worldwide. Some declared their unwavering loyalty, insisting this was just another attempt to tear down a black man at the top of his game. Others, however, weren't so forgiving, pointing to the evidence and demanding accountability. "It's always in the music," one fan tweeted. "Artists tell on themselves more than they realize." Another wrote, "If really exposes him, it's over, you can't come back from that." But just when it seemed like the walls were closing in, Drake pulled his classic move: he distracted. A surprise single dropped online filled with bars aimed at his enemies, mocking the whispers and daring people to come at him. "You think I'm guilty? Prove it," he rapped in a tone dripping with arrogance. For a brief moment, it worked. Fans danced, clubs played the track, and memes filled the internet, but the distraction didn't last. Within days, blogs and media outlets dissected the song, pointing out how he seemed to be avoiding the real issue while trying to gaslight. The public dot behind the scenes, executives were said to be divided. Some argued that exposing him could destroy one of their most profitable artists and harm the company financially. Others insisted that the truth mattered more, that they couldn't allow the label's reputation to be tied to allegations of this magnitude. One insider described the boardroom atmosphere as electric with tension, like a family tearing itself apart over a dark secret. As the debate raged, another shocking twist emerged. An anonymous source leaked what they claimed was a recording of a heated phone call between Drake and an executive. In the alleged audio, Drake can be heard shouting, "You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I had to do to get here," his voice shaking with anger and frustration. The executive calmly replies, "You should have thought about that before you left trails that we can't cover anymore." Fans who heard the audio clip went wild, arguing about its authenticity. Some swore it was his voice, while others claimed it was AI-generated. Either way, the damage was done. Suspicion grew stronger, and people who once laughed off the allegations began to wonder if there was truth behind the smoke. Memes turned darker, tweets turned more aggressive, and journalists began digging deeper. One major outlet even teased an upcoming expose, claiming to have secured exclusive interviews with people who knew Drake personally and were ready to speak. With pressure mounting, even Drake's inner circle began to splinter. One of his closest collaborators unfollowed him on Instagram, sparking endless speculation. Was it a silent protest, or was it damage control to protect their own brand? In Hollywood and the music industry, silence often speaks louder than words. And fans didn't miss a beat. Within hours, the internet was buzzing, dissecting every unfollow, every cryptic post, every subtle sign that something bigger was about to explode. And just when the tension felt unbearable, rumors began circulating that Drake had fled the city, retreating to a secret location in order to regroup. Paparazzi photos of a private jet departing Toronto only fueled the theories. Fans speculated whether he was running from the storm or preparing to confront it head-on. As one blog dramatically put it, the King of Toronto may have just abandoned his throne. The drama reached new heights when an alleged victim came forward anonymously, sharing her story through a podcast interview. Her voice was disguised, but her emotions were raw. She described late-night messages, promises of fame, and then being discarded when things got complicated. Her words sent shockwaves across social media, with many crying out that this was the beginning of the end. By the time the episode ended, the world was left divided, questioning what was real and what was fabricated. Drake's silence only deepened the mystery, and looming expose hung over everything like a storm cloud ready to burst. And that's where things stood on the edge of collapse, with fans demanding answers, executives debating loyalty versus truth, and Drake himself trying to hold together an empire built on charm, talent, and maybe, just maybe, secrets too dark to hide forever. As the anonymous podcast episode spread like wildfire, fans and critics alike were glued to every word. The alleged victim's story struck a nerve, not only because of the detail she described, but also because it seemed to align eerily with lyrics Drake had rapped years ago. People pulled out old interviews, dissected verses, and posted side-by-side comparisons. What once sounded like harmless braggadocio suddenly felt like thinly veiled confessions. The industry was shaken. Insiders whispered that executives had known something for years but had chosen to look the other way because of the money Drake generated. Now, with the public turning against him, those Some executives were scrambling to rewrite history, trying to act like they had always been on the side of truth. One source painted a dramatic scene inside a private meeting. You could see the fear in their eyes. One exec slammed the table and said, "We can't protect him anymore, this is bigger than us." And for the first time, nobody argued back. Meanwhile, Drake's camp was in chaos. OVO affiliates who had built their careers off his cosign suddenly began issuing vague statements, distancing themselves without directly naming him. One producer tweeted, "Sometimes silence is the loudest truth," and quickly deleted it after fans flooded his mentions. Another longtime associate was allegedly overheard telling a friend, "We all knew this was going to catch up with him. Someday, I just didn't think it would be this bad." Drake himself remained uncharacteristically quiet. No Instagram stories, no clever captions, no new tracks. His silence was deafening, and it only fueled speculation that he was either working on a calculated response or drowning in panic. Fans noticed that he had unfollowed several accounts himself, including a high-profile music journalist who had been teasing shocking revelations. That move only backfired, drawing even more attention to the journalist's upcoming story. The public was hungry for answers, and into that hunger stepped Drake's rivals. Artists who had been on the receiving end of his diss track suddenly smelled blood in the water. One rapper went live, laughing while holding a glass of champagne, saying, "I told y'all years ago, he wasn't who you thought he was, now. Look, the mask is slipping." His comments went viral, and fans dug up the diss tracks Drake had aimed at him, wondering if the insults had been deflections all along. But the most shocking moment came when a second alleged victim surfaced. This time with screenshots. Blurred out for legal reasons, the texts were filled with flirty messages and promises of career opportunities. Though skeptics questioned their authenticity, the timing was damning. Within hours, the screenshots were trending worldwide, and fans could no longer ignore the possibility that Drake's empire was built on more than just catchy hooks and #1 hits. Inside Drake's family, the tension reached unbearable levels. His mother was said to be inconsolable, pleading with him to make a public statement. "Just tell them the truth, Aubrey," she reportedly begged during a private conversation using his real name. But Drake, pacing the room, allegedly snapped, "Back, the truth will destroy me, Mom. You don't get it." According to the source, that exchange ended with silence. A painful reminder of how far things had spiraled. His father, on the other hand, was more pragmatic. In an alleged phone call with Drake, he was overheard saying, "Son, you can't outrun this. You gotta get ahead of it or they'll eat you alive." Those words, while blunt, reportedly shook Drake to his core. For the first time, he began to consider whether his usual strategy of arrogance and distraction would be enough. As if the situation wasn't already explosive, a new twist emerged. Leaked documents suggested that UMG had compiled a dossier, a thick folder of evidence, testimonies, and unreleased lyrics, all set to be unveiled if Drake failed to cooperate. The thought of a label turning against its own biggest star was almost unthinkable. But the whispers were clear. Was preparing to sacrifice him to save themselves. The music world erupted once again when snippets of that alleged dossier began to leak. One unreleased verse contained chilling lines about talking to her when she was too young to know the game and teaching lessons after class. Fans replayed the audio over and over, trying to determine if it was authentic. While some claimed it was an unfinished demo taken out of context, others argued there was no denying the voice was his. The fallout reached beyond the industry. Celebrities began weighing in. One actress tweeted, "It's always the ones you least expect," while another posted, "Believe women." The subtle digs fueled speculation that more people in Hollywood knew about Drake's alleged behavior than the public had realized. And then came the fans' reactions, messy, divided, and emotional. Die-hard supporters posted montages of Drake's career, insisting the allegations were just another attempt to tear down a successful black artist. Others, however, began burning merchandise on camera, uploading videos of themselves destroying OVO hoodies and sneakers. The internet became a battlefield, with hashtags like #DrakeExposed and #ProtectTheYouth trending simultaneously. But perhaps the most devastating blow came from within Drake's own fanbase. One longtime fan page with millions of followers suddenly shut down overnight, leaving only a cryptic farewell message: "Some things can't be defended. Goodbye." That simple act sent shockwaves across social media, symbolizing the crumbling loyalty even among his most devoted supporters. Behind the scenes, Drake was allegedly spiraling. Sources claimed he locked himself in his Toronto mansion, refusing to see anyone except a tight circle of confidants. One insider described him as paranoid and angry, snapping at people, drinking more than usual, and constantly rereading the articles. The pressure was unlike anything he had faced before, and even his wealth and fame couldn't shield him from the weight of public scrutiny. Then came the betrayal nobody expected. A former close friend, someone who had been part of Drake's inner circle for over a decade, broke their silence in an interview. While careful not to name specifics, they hinted that the rumors had truth to them, saying, "I've seen things I wish I hadn't. I stayed quiet for years because of loyalty. But loyalty doesn't mean covering up for everything." The internet exploded, dissecting every word, and for many fans, that was the final nail in the coffin. But Drake wasn't done yet. According to insiders, he began plotting a counterattack. Late-night studio sessions resumed, and whispers spread that he was preparing a diss track aimed not at rivals, but at the very label that had turned its back on him. "If they want to expose me, I'll expose them first," he allegedly told a friend, his voice filled with fury. The idea of Drake waging war against UMG itself was almost unthinkable, but the tension had reached a breaking point where anything seemed possible. As part 2 of this unfolding saga closes, the stage is set for something unprecedented. A superstar cornered, a label preparing to burn its golden child, and fans torn between loyalty and outrage. The question is no longer whether Drake will survive this storm, but how far he's willing to go to fight back and what secrets will be dragged into the light along the way. The whispers of Drake preparing a diss track aimed at UMG sent chills through the industry. Nobody had ever seen an artist of his caliber declare war on the very machine that built him. But insiders claimed Drake was determined, pacing through his Toronto mansion at night, muttering to himself, "They want to bury me? I'll make sure they burn with me." He was angry, cornered, and ready to gamble everything. Meanwhile, UMG tightened its grip. Executives allegedly hired a crisis management firm to prepare for the fallout. Leaked emails suggested they were strategizing how to distance themselves from Drake without admitting they had enabled him for years. One executive reportedly wrote, "If he wants to play hardball, we'll release everything we've got." That single sentence, once leaked online, became a rallying cry for fans demanding the truth. Social media detectives went into overdrive. Timelines were flooded with threads analyzing his old relationships, tour footage, and interviews where his interactions with younger women were suddenly being reinterpreted in a disturbing light. One viral video showed him on stage years ago inviting a teenage fan up and making flirtatious comments. The clip wasn't new, but in the current climate, it resurfaced with renewed force, and fans were horrified. "He was literally showing use all along, and we ignored it," one commenter wrote. Echoing the sentiment of thousands. The pressure reached a boiling point when a major news outlet finally dropped their long-teased expose. The headline alone shook the internet. The Drake Files, how lyrics, leaked messages, and industry silence built a dangerous legacy. The article detailed shocking testimonies, alleged cover-ups, and moments where red flags were ignored in the name of profit. What made it worse was that the expose included the voices of people who had once been close to Drake. Former employees, collaborators, even old friends, all painting a picture of someone who wielded his power recklessly, with little concern for the damage left behind. One chilling passage described a secret party at a luxury mansion where several young women were allegedly present, their ages suspiciously blurred in the retelling. The expose claimed Drake's team confiscated phones at the door to prevent leaks, but a former bodyguard came forward saying, "Everyone knew what was happening. We just didn't talk about it." The public reaction was explosive. Hashtags trended globally, petitions were launched demanding accountability, and fans flooded UMG's pages with comments demanding they cut ties with Drake immediately. But even as the outrage grew, some voices in the industry tried to defend him. A veteran rapper tweeted, "Y'all are quick to tear down a legend. Half of these stories sound like lies." Another producer argued that people were weaponizing lyrics without understanding artistic expression. The debate was fierce, with emotions running high and friendships breaking apart online. And then came the most shocking twist of all. leaked audio of an alleged phone call between Drake and one of the supposed victims. The voice, believed to be Drake's, could be heard apologizing, saying, "I shouldn't have put you in that position. I just thought you understood me." Though the authenticity of the audio was debated, fans couldn't ignore how genuine the emotion sounded. Whether it was real or fabricated, the damage was devastating. Inside the OVO camp, betrayal reached its peak. One of Drake's closest allies, someone who had helped craft his image for years, Allegedly turned over evidence to UMG in exchange for immunity. The betrayal left Drake furious. "He was family," Drake reportedly raged to a confidant. "I made him, and he's the one handing me over to the wolves." Drake's paranoia deepened. Sources claimed he began suspecting everyone around him of leaking information. His inner circle grew smaller, and those still in it described an atmosphere of fear. One associate confided, "You could feel the tension. Every conversation felt like it could be the last before he cut you off." With the walls closing in, Drake finally broke his silence publicly. In a surprise Instagram Live, he appeared on camera looking tense, his eyes red as if he hadn't slept. He denied the allegations, called them fabricated lies, and insisted UMG was trying to destroy him because he refused to renew his contract on their terms. "They're scared of my power," he told viewers. "They know I don't need them anymore, so they're trying to paint me as a monster." The live drew millions of viewers, with fans spamming the chat. Some begged him to tell the truth, others defended him blindly, while critics mocked him for playing the victim. The broadcast lasted only 20 minutes, but it reignited the firestorm. Clips of him angrily pointing into the camera were replayed across news outlets, and memes of his emotional outbursts flooded Twitter. But the drama didn't end there. Hours after his live, UMG allegedly leaked the first piece of their so-called dossier, an unreleased song. The track, clearly recorded in Drake's voice, included lines so incriminating they sent shockwaves through the internet. "Met her too. Young, but she felt grown," he rapped in one verse. "Kept it quiet, no one had to know." The audio clip spread instantly, with fans replaying it in disbelief. Drake's defenders claimed the song was fake, an AI-generated smear campaign. Others argued it was too specific, too polished to be fabricated. The debate became the hottest topic online, with fans divided down the middle. As the chaos grew, celebrities continued to weigh in. One pop star unfollowed Drake and tweeted a single broken heart emoji, sparking rumors she knew something damning. Another posted, "This industry hides too much. Time's up." The ripple effects spread quickly. As collaborations were canceled, playlists quietly dropped his songs, and sponsors pulled deals overnight. Drake's empire, once untouchable, was now visibly crumbling. His net worth might have been massive, but no amount of money could stop the tide of public opinion turning against him. And yet, amid the destruction, Drake still plotted revenge. Insiders revealed he was working on a tell-all album, one that would expose the hypocrisy of the music industry and drag other artists' secrets into the light. "If I go down, everyone's coming with me," he reportedly vowed. By the end of this chapter, the world was left holding its breath. Would Drake release the diss track against UMG and ignite a war unlike anything the industry had ever seen? Or would the label strike first, dropping the rest of their dossier and ending his career in one devastating blow? The tension was unbearable, and everyone from fans to rivals to family was bracing for the next shocking twist. The world waited in suspense as rumors spread that Drake's tell-all album was nearly finished. Insiders claimed he had recorded dozens of tracks, each one more ruthless than the last, aimed not just at UMG but at fellow artists, executives, and even former friends. In private conversations, he allegedly declared, "If they think they can cancel me, they don't know what's coming. I'll expose everyone." Those words, dripping with both fury and desperation, sent shockwaves through his inner circle. But before he could make his move, UMG struck again. Late one Friday night, the label allegedly leaked a series of internal memos hinting that multiple complaints had been filed against Drake over the years, complaints that had quietly been buried. The documents described meetings where concerns were raised about his behavior around young fans, only for the issues to be dismissed with phrases like "not worth the trouble" or "too valuable to lose." The revelation was damning, not only for Drake but also for the label itself. Fans erupted with outrage, calling it proof that everyone had been complicit in protecting him. As the story spread, Drake's rivals seized the moment, one particularly. BOLD rapper dropped a diss track overnight, taking direct aim at Drake's scandal. The lyrics mocked his silence, his family drama, and even his alleged relationship history. The track went viral within hours, climbing charts and dominating playlists that once belonged to Drake. It was a humiliation he could not ignore. In response, Drake doubled down. Sources claimed he summoned his closest collaborators for an emergency studio session, demanding that the Tell-All album be finished in record time. "I don't care if we don't sleep," he reportedly told them. "This has to be out before they bury me alive." The tension in the room was palpable. Some collaborators were hesitant, fearing association with the project could damage their own careers, while others were drawn to the chaos, eager to ride the wave of controversy. Then, in a twist nobody expected, one of the collaborators secretly recorded the session and leaked snippets online. Fans could hear Drake's voice spitting venom at executives, accusing them of betrayal, and threatening to reveal names of other artists who had allegedly engaged in similar scandals. "They all dirty," he rapped in one leaked bar. "I just got caught first." The line alone sent the internet into a frenzy. The leak divided the industry even further. Some called it bravery, others called it a desperate attempt to drag everyone down with him. One veteran producer tweeted, "This is the end of an era. When the biggest star in the world goes rogue, nobody is safe." As if things couldn't get worse, rumors swirled that law enforcement was now looking into some of the allegations, spurred by public pressure and the growing pile of evidence. The thought of Drake facing legal consequences took the drama to an entirely new level. Fans speculated endlessly about whether he would be arrested, and paparazzi camped outside his mansion hoping to catch the moment. Drake's family, already fractured by the allegations, began to splinter completely. His mother reportedly begged him to step away from music and seek help, while his father urged him to fight back harder than ever. The emotional toll was visible, with insiders claiming Drake was breaking down in private, alternating between moments of rage and quiet despair. "He doesn't know who to trust anymore," one source revealed. "Every phone call feels like it could be another betrayal." And then came the bombshell that shook the world. Announced an emergency press conference. Fans and media gathered in anticipation, convinced that the label was finally about to expose everything. Speculation reached fever pitch. Would they drop the full dossier? Would they sever ties with Drake publicly? Or would they deny the leaks and try to save face? The press conference, however, only deepened the mystery. Executives stood stiffly before cameras, issuing vague statements about taking allegations seriously and reviewing past actions. They didn't name Drake directly, but the implication was clear. One executive closed with the words, "We will not protect anyone at the expense of truth." Fans interpreted it as a death sentence for Drake's career, but Drake wasn't about to let the label have the last word. That very night, he went live again, this time more defiant than before. Staring straight into the camera, he declared, "They can't silence me. I built this empire with my own hands, and I'll burn it all down before I let them take me out." His words were chilling, his tone unwavering. The live ended abruptly, leaving viewers stunned and buzzing with theories about what he planned to do next. As rumors swirled, another devastating leak emerged, this time not from but from someone once inside Drake's own circle. An old voice note surfaced of Drake allegedly admitting to crossing lines in the past. Whether authentic or doctored, the timing was catastrophic. Fans who had clung to their loyalty began to waver, admitting they could no longer defend him. "It's like every day there's something worse," one longtime fan tweeted. "I don't even recognize the man I used to admire." The fallout reached global proportions. International outlets covered the scandal. Governments weighed in with statements about protecting young fans at concerts, and even Drake's music began disappearing from playlists in foreign markets. The empire he had spent years building was crumbling in real time, and there was no escaping it. Yet, despite the avalanche of accusations and evidence, Drake still plotted his final move. Whispers spread that he planned to leak the entirety of his Tell-All album directly to fans, bypassing labels and streaming platforms in one last desperate attempt to control the narrative. Insiders warned that if he did, the lyrics would drag half the industry into the mud with him. It won't just be his downfall, one insider said. It'll be nuclear. The world was left on edge. Would Drake press the button and release the album that could expose everyone? Would UMG release the rest of their dossier and bury him for good? Or would law enforcement step in first, ending the drama in a way nobody saw coming? As Part 4 closes, the stage is set for the most explosive showdown in hip-hop history. A superstar against his own label, a family divided, fans torn apart, and a truth too dark to stay hidden forever. The question isn't just whether Drake's career can survive, it's whether the entire industry will collapse under the weight of the secrets he threatens to reveal as the dust settles. The world is left in a state of uneasy silence. Drake stands at a crossroads, surrounded by whispers, betrayals, and the looming shadow of a label ready to expose him. His own lyrics, once celebrated as clever and untouchable, are now being replayed as confessions he never thought would catch up to him. Fans are torn between loyalty and outrage, his family is fractured, and the entire industry holds its breath, wondering if one man's downfall could bring down everyone else with him. But what happens next? Will Drake risk everything and release the tell-all album that could burn the music world to the ground? Will drop the rest of their dossier, cutting ties with their golden child and leaving him to face the storm alone? Or will the truth, whatever it may be, remain buried beneath spin, denial, and distraction? Right now, nobody has the answers. What's clear is that this scandal has changed everything. The fans aren't just spectators anymore, they are the jury, the ones who will decide whether Drake survives or fades into the shadows of disgrace. And that's where you come in. What do you think? Is Drake the victim of a ruthless label trying to silence him, or has he finally been exposed for who he really is? Should the industry take accountability, or should the blame fall entirely on his shoulders? We want to hear your thoughts, because this story isn't just about music, it's about power, truth, and the cost of secrets too heavy to carry. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more updates on the drama that's shaking hip-hop to its core, and drop your opinions in the comments below. Your voice matters and the world is watching.